Hi, I'm Molly Miller. Welcome to my Riff Lords. Thanks for checking this out. I've been playing the guitar since I was 7 years old. I grew up playing in like a pop rock band with my brothers and sisters, and then studied studio jazz guitar at USC, where I was there for 9 years, got my doctorate of musical arts there. And so a lot of my playing is definitely informed by jazz, but also by all my influences of country and rock and pop and soul. And I think you can really hear that in my playing with like a strong jazz foundation, but the influences of all these different things from like folk music to rock and pop and funk. Today I'll be sharing with you guys some of the riffs I play and the licks I play with artists such as Jason Mraz in my own trio, Molly Miller Trio, and also in a band I play in with my brother, Sammy Miller, in the Congregation. So I'll be pulling from those 3 acts and showing you guys some of the things I do. First thing I'm going to be showing you guys is a riff from one of my songs called Hear It Calling. It's like kind of a country song with definitely some jazz influences. So I'll play this lick for you once in time, and then I'll play it slowed down and explain to you what I'm doing. All right, I'm going to play this lick for you a couple of times in a row. I'll play it slow and then I'll explain to you guys what I'm doing. So this song starts in G, and for that whole riff is all in the key of G. Even though I'm moving through a bunch of chords, I'm moving through these things called drop 2 voicings. And they can seem jazzy, but really drop 2 voicings are used in funk, they're used in soul, they're used in all sorts of styles of music. So I wouldn't get stuck thinking they're jazz. But they're basically 7th chords, which are root, 3, 5, and in this case flat 7, because it's a dominant chord. And I'm playing 3 iterations of that chord. So the same 4 notes are then getting moved up. And then the next iteration again. Once again, I'll play those 3 voicings of G7. Another G7, and then another G7. And I make them sound more interesting and less like so exercisey by doing a couple things. I'm super into hybrid picking, meaning I play with a pick and then my fingers as well. So it's not just finger style and it's not just flat picking, but a combo of the 2. So I stole this sort of thing from Danny Gadden, but then made it my own. But it's sort of a country thing where you're doing a sweep of these different, like the same chord multiple times up and down. It's also a Django thing, which is very cool. So you can see all these different influences coming into my playing from the country side and then also the jazz side. So 3 different G7 voicings, and how I'm playing them is I start with my pick and then I finger pick the rest. So it's all the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. But fast, it sounds really cool. At least I think it sounds cool, but yeah, so that's what I do. It's slowed down. And then kind of more classic, like the bend of G7, of like that flat 3rd to 3rd, which is like country and rocks and blues and just like so like American rock and roll kind of things where it like starts from, rooted from. And I'm outlining G7. And again, that like bend in from the flat 3rd to the 3rd, that's something I love to do, and you'll hear a lot in my style of playing, but also like so many guitar players, of like sliding into that 3rd, that tension of the flat 3rd into the 3rd, which is like, yeah, that tension is I'm super into, and that's like classic blues and country sound. So I go. So it's that chromaticism too. And chromaticism you hear in so many different styles of music. Which is also that blues from the 5 down to the 4, that sharp, you hear that tension of the sharp 4 too. So slide into that third. One more time, that same sort of theme, but you hear it in 3 different octaves of like the third to the flat third. So meaning that like B flat to the B. So I can put it all together now that you hear what I'm doing. So drop 2 voicings, bending that third, outlining the chord, and like once again that like flat 3 to 3. That's a big theme of this lick. Okay, so we walk through all this. And so then what you're gonna wanna do is, I'm trying to like get this bluesy sound. So if you go up, put your first finger on the 10th fret and your second finger on the 11th fret of the B string and bend it up, that's a really cool kind of bluesy sound. And that's sort of a theme you're gonna hear a couple times of that like bend, that tension of this like B flat note turning into a B note. And I keep going down. So I'm sort of like walking down from one string. 3rd string, I hit the 12th fret and then the 10th fret. And then on the 4th string, I go 12, 11, 10. And here again is that sort of like that bend of, or like the tension with the, on the 4th string, I'm going from the 8th fret to the 9th fret, down to the 5th string, hit that G note, hit the F note, and then here's one more time. So 3 times you get that sort of tension of the B flat to the B. And you end on the root. So I'll put that all together. Now that you know what I'm doing, I'll play it slowly. Okay, so I'll play this like a couple more times right now at full speed. Try to play along. I'm a huge fan of wah guitar. I don't care what anyone says. I think it's cool. I think it's funky, especially when used tastefully, not all the time. It's not like I'm always wahing, but when appropriate, I do. I was in an Afrobeat funk band for a while, like 8-9 years, and I feel like that made me love wah because it can be done really tastefully and it just like adds such cool textures and like funk and pop, and when it's in the pocket, it kills. It's awesome. So this is a lick from my brother's band, Sammy Miller and the Congregation. At one point in one of their songs, this thing called a Jopera. It's this made-up thing they do. Anyways, there's a breakdown where like, it's a huge band. There's a 7-piece band, and then suddenly it breaks down and it's just guitar. And it's the beginning of my solo, and it's like, what do I do to make it sound big, to make it sound funky, to make it sound guitar-y? And so I play wah and do this breakdown. It's an A flat. So I'll play it for you, then I'll talk about what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3. So what I'm doing is it's A flat. I have this like A flat octave theme that's like pretty like bass funky, or something like of that nature. And so I have that basic theme that's going and continuing on. And it's almost like the bassist and the drummer are together. And then this is how I'm conceptualizing it. Like the bass and drummer are this. And then I have a couple seconds to throw in a few licks. And I definitely change it up every time I do it. I'll play different licks, but here's a couple that I like to do. So one is just this like, basically I'm like continuing the bass line where I'm like going up from G flat to G to A flat. So that first lick sounds like this. So there's like one iteration. The next one is sort of like a pentatonic blues scale sound. If you're thinking of this blues scale in A flat, it's based off that. And so I'm sliding into that blues note and doing a riff off that. Something like that. So it's the second riff sounds like this. Something like that. And then the third one is pentatonic. So, and I'm super into double stops, a la like Hendrix and Sisters of the Tharp and John Mayer. Like so many awesome players use double stops, and I'm a big fan of them. And so I'm playing these double stops that are all in the pentatonic, so all in A flat minor pentatonic. And I'm basically like playing 2 notes at a time and then hammering onto another note from the pentatonic, the minor pentatonic. So in this case, I start on the 7th fret, my first finger is on the 1st and 2nd string, and I'm hammering my 2nd finger onto the 9th fret of the 2nd string. And then the next one is the 2nd and 3rd string. My first finger is on the 3rd string, 6th fret, and my 2nd finger is on the 2nd string, 7th fret, and I'm hammering on my 3rd finger to the 8th fret. Sorry, all these numbers. And then the last one is back in that sort of like original pentatonic shape that I think we're all like most familiar with. 4th fret, 2nd and 3rd string, and I'm hammering my 3rd finger on the 3rd string from the 4th fret to the 6th fret. So it sounds like this. And so in context, and so I'll put all those 3 together, a little bit slowed down for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll play it for you all in time. Now that you've heard it, you know what's going on. 1, 2, 3, play. So I started and ended on the first lick there, and it's all like funky, trying to fill out the sound and do something like guitar-y and funky. This next riff is off Jason Mraz's new record, Look for the Good, and the song is called The Minute I Heard of Love. On that song, I take a solo, and there's this call and response thing that happens that's cool, and I think my gold top will be more appropriate for the riff. So this guitar has a ton of natural breakup, which is very cool. But so the song is mostly in A minor, and we're going between A minor and D minor and E7, but at this part, it's all E7, and I do a call and response thing with the band. So I'll play that for you. Okay, so I'll slow this lick down for you, and then I'll explain to you guys what I'm doing. And so what's happening there is it's all over E7 and then it ends in an A minor chord. And so what I'm doing is I kind of visualize parts of chords. I think guitar is super visual. And so I see this E7 bar chord that you guys might be familiar with. And I'm taking the top two, the 3rd string and the 1st string of the E7, just picking 2 notes and creating a little motif or a theme with it. And the tension is between that E note and the F note, which is like a tense note over an E chord. So, and so you get this little theme that's created, and then the band can respond. That's something I like to do a lot, where you want to leave space for other people you're playing with. It's not all about us, unfortunately. So we have to make room for other people to respond and interact, because that's how you bring the band in, but also all the listeners in. And so I'm leaving space with this riff. And it's just this theme that happens a few times. The band responds. The band responds. And then here is the resolution lick. And I go all the way up. Now I have to count to the 16th fret and resolve to the 17th fret. And it's 3rd string and 1st string on the 16th fret. And that outlines the E7 chord. And then I resolve to an A minor chord when I go all the way up to that 17th fret. And that's the whole riff, all over E7, going into A minor. It's like a reggae kind of song. So here's what it sounds like again in time now that you know what's going on. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's another example also of hybrid picking where I'm using the pick on the G string and then my middle finger on the E string. I like it because, you know, it has the fingers have a little more warmth and more control. So another cool thing about that is you don't have to play the notes exactly together. You can kind of do this thing where it almost feels like it's rolling, like versus, which is, and you know, you don't have to worry about that B string too. You get sort of like roll, which is another thing why I like hybrid picking. You just have so much control with your right hand, whether it's like tone and timing. Here is another riff, and this is actually from a new single of mine off my new record. It's called Over the Fence, and I'll play it for you and then I'll talk about what I'm doing. Tone's actually cool. Okay. 1, 2. That's the whole riff. Now let me play it 2 times in a row that you've heard it once. 1, 2, 3. And that, I was like trying to think about some riffs for today to teach, and I was listening to that song, and that is a theme I kind of play, and it was improvised, but it's something I kind of do a lot where we're in G minor right now, so I kind of like see this G minor chord, and then I'm picking out notes within that chord to create a melody. I'm always melody forward. I think that's so important. You know, oftentimes as guitarists, we think in these like big bulky chords, like, but that doesn't say as much as like a melody, because that's really what the listener is going to grab onto. So melody, melody, melody. I can't ever say it enough. And my melody for this was in this like G minor 9, G minor 6 land, where here's your G minor chord and I'm adding other color tones and adding this whole like melody within that. And another thing I'm doing is doing it on a lot of upbeats to kind of create this tension that's building. I'm gonna play it slowly for you guys right now and I'll try to listen to, I'll count it out and then how a lot of the beats are on the upbeats, because that's creating some of the tension and lick. 1, 2, 3. So there's a couple of reasons why this tension's happening. The riff that's like on the upbeat, and also I'm playing that like tense sound, which if you're like here in this G minor chord with your first finger barred on the 3rd fret, if you go back 1 fret, which is a half step off from everything, you get a lot of tension, which, you know, that's the whole kind of like, I feel like that's the reason this lick exists in the song. It's like you're building tension and eventually for this explosion of resolution instead of dissonance. Once again, I'm using hybrid picking for this. You could do a different approach where you're doing all strumming, and I actually want to show it to you guys both ways, and you can see there's pros and cons to both. So here's just with me picking. 1, 2, 3. It's a little more aggressive and has a little more punch first. One's not right or wrong. It's just like thinking about tone, I think, is something I'm always pushing to, and how hybrid picking versus finger picking all inform these things in different ways. And so yeah, let me actually walk you through what I'm doing a little bit. Pinky, there's like a lot of pinky work on this. My pinky's going 1st string, 5th fret, and pulling off. And then I'm doing a hammer on to this 2nd string, 5th fret from the 3rd fret. So you get pull off, then hammer on. And then we start to go into the, like that's the pickup. And then we start to go into the like that theme with like the little chord and the melody on top, which is my pinky. My pinky's going between the 5th fret and then falls off to get the melody from the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And then it goes up to the 6th fret. And can you hear that tension when I bring that whole voicing down a half step? So it's that tense chord where I bring the whole voicing down 1 fret to resolution. And I do that little theme again. And it ends there on a tense moment. So I'll put it all together now that you guys know the basic idea of this riff. G minor, tension, upbeats, that half step down where you get a lot of tension there. 1, 2, 3. In the song, this is in the middle of the solo section where I played it. It's where like things are starting to build up, and it's all over G minor. So in a lot of the music I play, there's like a bunch of harmony moving, and this is an opportunity to try and build something over this one chord. So everything's just the land of G minor. And in the song, you play the melody, and then I drop out, and it's just bass and drums, and they just groove for a second. And I come in and kind of sneak in, and this is the part of the song where I'm trying to like get things to like a simmer, and from the simmer to like bringing it up to a light boil, that moment. So this lick, you know, the band's all playing together and we're building this tension. And so that's how this lick kind of serves to build the tension in order to push us to this next, you know, more climactic moment over the G minor solo section. I'm gonna do another riff, and this is from a band I play with. My brother actually is a badass drummer, Sammy Miller in the Congregation. He's Sammy Miller. I have a solo feature on their song Eagle Rock, and the chords on this song are G, F, C for that solo section, and the vibe's kind of like. That's the vibe, so let me show you the lick that I play over that. Oh. So I'll play this one pretty slow for you guys to play along with and watch my fingers, see what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. I played the riff twice, so I'm outlining those chords, that G to the F to the C, and I'm doing a couple things. I'm doing that hybrid picking once again. I'm a huge proponent for it, but and I'm doing that same sort of thing I did on the first lick, where I'm doing the tension thing from that. It's actually the flat third to the third. So what it is like creating that tension. It's a very bluesy thing to do, and I'm playing an octave, and I'm making the octave more interesting. So instead of just going like. I'm making a little riff out of it. So what I do is with my first finger on, I slide from the 8th fret to the 9th fret on the 4th string, and then my pinky hits the octave, which is the 12th fret. So it's, and that same sort of theme, but I'm moving that second note. So instead of going to the 12th fret, I go to the 10th fret the second time. And so it sounds like this. And then I end each of those phrases, the first 2 phrases, with the root, which in this case is the 12th fret on the 3rd string. So put together, it's like this. And then I do the same exact thing down a whole step to F. So together, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I end the lick with the same sort of theme that's happening down on the C chord. So I'm kind of visualizing that. And so my first finger is sliding from the 1st fret to the 2nd fret. Same thing again, except my pinky ending on the 5th fret, ends on the 3rd fret. So after I go, and I keep that sort of theme moving down, and my pinky goes to the G string 5th fret. So it's one more time. to the root. So all together, I'll play it for you in time, but basically I'm taking one motif and building it over each chord. And you can see how on that last C chord, like I keep playing the same, and that other melody note's moving down, eventually to the root. So I'll play it for you again 2 times in a row. Try to play along with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to switch guitars now and play a couple licks on my 3-3-5. So this next lick I'm going to play is off of my song Hasta Luego, which is off my my new record called St. George, which is out June 4th. And I'll play the riff for you, and then I'll explain to you what I'm doing. It's in 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. I'll play this riff slowed down a bunch, and then I'll get into all the details of what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So this riff is mostly in B7. It's kind of like a similar thing to what I was doing on that Jason Mraz lick over The Minute I Heard a Love. On this song, it's like a tension moment where we're on this dominant chord, this B7, and it's building and building and building, and then resolves to the minor. So it resolves to that E minor. And so I'm in B7, and I'm palm muting my guitar, and I'm playing on my 4th and 3rd string and building this theme and getting tension within it. And so in this case, once again, like I'm always melody driven, and the melody is actually on the lower string, which is the 4th string in this case. And my 3rd finger stays where it is, and my 1st finger is on the 7th fret of my 4th string, and my 3rd finger is on the 9th fret. I'm going between those 2 notes at first. So that's the theme, and then instead of being on this 9th and 7th fret, I'm on the 10th and 7th fret. Back to that original one. So that part sounds like this. So you can see like original, slightly different, original. And then I stop palm muting, I open up, and I go into these little diminished chords, and I'm going up in like every 3 frets, in minor thirds is what it's called. So it first starts, let me actually show you the voicing first, and then you work this voicing up 3 times. So my 1st finger is on the 7th fret, 4th string. My 3rd finger is on the 8th fret, 3rd string. My middle finger is on the 2nd string, 7th fret, and my pinky is on the 1st string, 8th fret. So it's like 7, 8, 7, 8. And I move that up 3 times. So, and then 3 frets up, and then 3 frets up, and I resolve to E minor. So I'll play it for you at like a medium tempo right now so you can hear that. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So B7, resolution to E minor, that like palm muting thing, and that's all down strums. And then the tension of the diminished lick, resolution to E minor. So I'll play the whole thing for you guys now at the normal speed. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So what that sound is that I'm kind of messing around with is it's kind of like a modal thing, if you will, over that B7. It's Phrygian dominant. So it's, I'll give you numbers now. If it's over your head, don't worry. But it's 1, flat 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Those are the numbers of the B7. So it's like B, C, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, and A. Those are the notes I'm messing around with. And it does sound like kind of Spanishy or something because of that flat 9. And then the walking up diminished sound is like, I mean, I always think of Django, but so many different artists have done it, but it's a very like Django thing to do. Resolution. So yeah, it's definitely like some like jazz and some Spanish influence. And then like the palm muting thing is like, I guess you could say, what is palm muting? I mean, like just like guitar. Yeah. So this next riff is off a Jason Mraz song called Might As Well Dance. I have a solo feature on it. You can see the YouTube video. It's the only time I think I look kind of cool. And in the solo, I'm like playing over a G7 chord. What Jason would call it is like, what would he call it? I feel like he'd call it like country funk. It's like, I feel like it's this like combination of like country music and funk, and then I do my thing over it. So here's the opening riff off of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So what I'm doing is that's all over G7, and I'm in this sort of like position where I'm thinking of this G7 chord and outlining it a bit and making a little riff out of it. Hammer on pull off. So for this lick, I start with my first finger on the 3rd string, 3rd fret, and I'm doing a hammer on and pull off. So it sounds like this. And then with my 3rd finger, I'm gonna do, it can feel funky, but it's a good thing to get used to, playing 2 different notes that are on the same fret at different times. So you're gonna have to just like move your finger in a way that you're not pulling the other strings as well. And then I go to my 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. And I go back to that G note, which is 4th string, 4th string, 5th fret. So, and that's like kind of a lot of what's happening is right there. And then I'm doing that whole like bending thing I like to do. And we're actually back in G, that same thing where I'm going from like B flat to B. Is the whole thing. So those first few notes I taught you, those are the only notes I'm playing. So there I'm going hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret of the 3rd string. So, and then it's almost like, I feel like in my head, it's almost like a stutter, like, and like you can't quite get it out. And then it finally comes out. So I'm messing around with just a handful of notes to create a phrase, and I'm messing around with rhythms. I'm not playing it rhythmically the same way each time, but changing up the rhythm while playing the same notes to create a riff. So you don't like have to play a bunch of notes to play something that sounds cool. So I'll play it for you slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So now I'll play it one more time at speed a couple times in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. 3, 4, 1. So I'll end today's Riff Lords with something from the opening piece that I played. It's called Meditations on Movement. And in this piece, I'm gonna go back to my 335 and I'll show you guys what the riff is. So this piece is called Meditations on Movement. When I wrote this record, my new record, it was like one of the themes is movement, because I wrote it while I was on tour, and it just like things were shifting in my life. So I was thinking a lot about movement in the literal sense, but also even this piece is like that explored on guitar. I'm moving from one key center to the next, and how a melody can lead that. And this riff I'm gonna play for you is all in the key of F major. So it's all just notes from F major, but sort of like swept up the guitar. Let me play that for you slowly. So I start in like an F6 chord, and I'm going through like F major, F6 sounds, and going up the F major scale and throwing chords in. And so I'll walk you through these chords. The first one is F6, and you might be familiar with this one. And I'm doing that thing I like to do a lot where, actually from the first riff, where I'm using hybrid picking, and I play the first 3 notes, which are the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and then I pick that last note. And I slide up on the 2nd string from the 8th fret to the 10th fret, and I keep walking up the scale. So 8th fret to 10th fret again on my 1st string, and then I play another chord. Here's a drop 2 I was talking about earlier. These drop 2s come in all sorts of genres, so I like to use them a lot. Note, which is the root, I play that F note. And then I love this chord so much. It's a 6/9 chord, because the 6th is played and the 9th is played. So it's an F major 6/9. And so 1st finger is on the 4th string of the 12th fret. Your 2nd finger is on the 2nd string of the 13th fret. My 3rd finger is on the 13th fret of my 3rd string, and then my pinky is up on the 15th fret of my E string. It's such a beautiful chord. So you have this. 2 more chords. And I actually don't play 4 notes. Another reason why I like to do hybrid picking, it sounds like the spread voicing. It sounds a little more spread out with all 4 notes. It's 3 notes, which the F note on that 15th fret, the C note on the 17th fret of your G string, and then that A note, which is way high up. You gotta make sure your guitar is in tune and intonated, or it's gonna sound a little funky. The 17th fret. So, and then I end with just the root, and then all the way up, it's the 5th, it's a C note. Oh my God, I have to really think on the 20th fret. I never count that high on the guitar, I just play it, I don't think. So it sounds like this together. Yeah, I'll play it in time again. But this is a piece is rubato, so it's not like in time, it's more just like falling is the visual, I think, with it. So I just showed you guys a bunch of different licks from a bunch of different genres. Some things that I think are through line throughout that I hope you got out of it, and just how I visualize the instrument and how I conceptualize it. Number 1, melody. Melody is always informing all my decisions. Yeah, melody, and then time. Make sure everything's in the pocket and groovy. And the other thing is I'm so shape-oriented. Guitar's so shape-oriented, and use that to your advantage instead of disadvantage, is making it, a crutch. Use it instead as a way to open up the fretboard, to take these shapes and move them all around, so you don't just know one shape, but maybe 2 or 3 or 4. And so if you could tell from what I was doing, it wasn't one G7 chord. There was 3 I played, or there wasn't one F major chord in that last lick. I played a few different ways of playing F major, and that really opens up the fretboard. And so don't get stressed out though about doing all of it at once. Just do one thing at a time. Just learn a bunch of different G7 voicings and get into just that before trying to learn every voicing that ever existed on the guitar, because only Ted Green could do that. So thanks so much for tuning in and checking out my Riff Lords. I hope you guys found something exciting. I know there was a lot of different things, so maybe just start with one that spoke to you and dig into that, and move it all around the guitar, move it in different keys, have fun with it, make it your own.